The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. We'll wait just a few more minutes before we get started. We'll wait just one more minute. Okay, great. So we want to be respectful of everyone's time, and we really want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. My name is Carly Caminiti. I am the project manager for the 84 movement, and I work for Health Resources in Action. I'm excited to be joined by two co-presenters who will introduce themselves right now.
Hi, I'm Janice. I'm a member of the Statewide Leadership team. This is my first year on the team, and I'm from Melrose.
Hi, I'm Millane Mosqueda, and I'm also a member of the team. And I've just been a new member since December of last year, and I'm also from Melrose.
Great. So we are so excited to have Janice and Millane with us today to be able to explain some of these things on what to expect. And again, we just are really trying to make this webinar a little bit more of something that can prepare you for Kick Butt Stay so you know exactly what the expectation should be. So first things first. And next slide, please. I know that all of you are probably wondering, what is Kick Butt Stay? Why did it come about? Why do we celebrate it? And who created it? Well, to answer those questions, it's the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. The Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids is a national advocacy organization that focuses specifically on tobacco and young people. So they came up with this day many years ago, and it really is a national day of a call to action. All across the country, there are many events that happen. In fact, over 1,000 events happen, and people do something to raise awareness about tobacco. A lot of times those events might be on a smaller scale, like doing something in a school or community-based organization, or it could be something really big, like what the 84 does every year at the State House. The point of Kick Butt Stay is really to raise awareness about tobacco issues in people's states or communities, and also to talk to people in power and really speak truth to power about what the tobacco industry is doing in their particular town. So we really are happy to be able to support Kick Butt Stay through the 84 movement, and ours is one of the largest in the country. And the 84 movement is really looked at as a leader on Kick Butt Stay, and we're often quoted in articles. Our pictures are used very often because people look to us as people who are really taking a stand against the tobacco industry on Kick Butt Stay. So here's some pictures of what other people do across the country. You can see that sometimes it might be a rally, other times might be some sort of awareness activity outside with chalking, or maybe it might be something with a mural or taking pictures with a particular phrase. Those are all examples of what happens on Kick Butt Stay, and it really depends on the time and resources of the community that's doing the activity. Fortunately, because of funding through the Department of Public Health, we are lucky enough to be able to have a really big Kick Butt Stay where we bring in a lot of people from across the state. And so who are those people, you might be wondering? The people who come to Kick Butt Stay are about 25 different chapters from across the state. And if you think about it, each of those typically has around 8 or so people that come, which means that there's around 200 young people. It's really great. It's a day full of energy because of these young people, but they're not the only ones who are there. In addition to the youth, there are often legislators that come to our programming. There are also other people who work in tobacco prevention and control, like people from the American Lung Association, the American Heart Association, the American Cancer Society, a lot of our allies, especially from Tobacco Free Massachusetts, which is really a combination of many people who work in the tobacco control field. In addition, our statewide leadership team are really at the front and center of the day as they come up with all of the presentations and are our main MCs on the day of. Janice and Millane have definitely been working on this very hard. And then also the commissioner of the Department of Public Health is a keynote speaker as well. So Janice, can you tell us more about what to expect? And don't forget to unmute.
Kick Butt Stay is a very busy day, so we've outlined everything that happens on this day. The youth will arrive to the church around 8:30 from across the state, and the event will officially begin at 9 o'clock. After the opening ceremony, we will march through the Boston Common to the State House, letting everyone know about who we are and why we are here. After a short break, the morning program begins at 10:30. When legislators speak to the youth about why our cause is important to them, then at 11:30, we start our training session where we will teach you all about 84 movement and big tobacco tactics so your legislative visits will go off without a hitch. After lunch, youth will break off into their legislative visit groups and talk face-to-face with their legislators about tobacco use in their communities. We reconvene at 2 o'clock in the Great Hall to give out awards, and at 2:30, youth return to their communities. Can you switch the slide, please? The opening ceremony was prepared by us, the statewide leadership team, and is designed to give basic tobacco information to prepare chapter members to educate their legislators. You will learn the 3 basic tactics that Big Tobacco uses to get youth addicted to tobacco, making their products sweet, cheap, and easy to get. We will also have a round of Kahoot, a trivia where youth get to test their knowledge about Big Tobacco and win prizes. This will be our first interaction we have as a whole movement. Next slide, please. The march through Boston Common gives us a chance to make our voices heard on the streets of Boston. As we march from the church to State House, we need to be excited and full of energy to show people just how passionate we are about ending youth tobacco use. We also have several chants that are catchy and will get our message across, so be loud and proud about the 84. Now I'll pass it over to Millane.
Okay, so the Legislative Speaker Program. We have several amazing speakers during the Legislative Speaker Program. The Commissioner of the Massachusetts Department of Health, Monica Barrow, and the Director of the Bureau of Community Health and Prevention at the Massachusetts Department of Health, Carleen Pavlos, will both be on hand to speak to youth about what they're doing to fight big tobacco. Additionally, we have several legislators who are champions of our work, also speaking during that time. At this time, we also give out the Statewide Youth Leadership Award to someone who we recognize for their hard work in tobacco prevention in their schools. We're also accepting candidates and have until next Friday to apply. Next slide, please. The training. Our training session is designed to make sure youth feel completely prepared to talk with their legislators about tobacco use in their communities. During this time, we go over exactly what to do and what not to do during legislative visits. We also have a video prepared by the statewide leadership team with information and tips about legislative visits. Finally, youth get to see an example of the visits to get a feel for what it will be like during their own visits. Next slide, please. So the visits are the most important part of our day at the State House. They are fairly short and usually take around 15 to 20 minutes. Legislative groups typically have several visits during this time, and may have to drop off a packet of information about the 84 movement at a legislator's office. This is a very busy time, and you may be running around to attend back-to-back meetings. There are no more than 15 youth per legislative visit, so if your chapter is paired with another chapter, you may have to divide and conquer if your group is too large. I'll pass it on to Carly.
Great, thank you. So sometimes you actually will meet with a legislator because that legislator will be available at the time that is scheduled to meet with them. However, a majority of times people meet with legislative aides. Aides are people who work for the representative or senator, and they're really their right-hand people. They're the ones who do all the research on any sort of topic under the sun in order to educate the legislator that is their boss about maybe what they should or should not do. They're people who really are invested in taking the time to research the causes, and so therefore they're really interested to hear what young people have to say about the tobacco industry's tactics. So these people should not be taken lightly, and they shouldn't be taken as second to the legislator. They're really VIPs in the office, and to be able to speak to them and have their ear means that your information will get passed on to the legislator after your meeting is over. Also, sharing personal stories is really key during all of these visits. Legislators and their aides don't know what's happening in high schools a lot of the time. So this is your opportunity to be able to bring those stories about what you're seeing in your high school and share those with your legislator. I've gone to several visits with young people, and the times that people are most interested in listening to them are when they're telling a story. Everyone likes to hear stories. So especially when it's about something that they don't know about, like what's going on in the high school with in regards to tobacco, this is a perfect opportunity to use that time for all that it's worth and make sure your voice is heard. In addition, you can bring example products from your town. I recommend that between now and Kick Butt's Day, you go to a store near you and pick up some tobacco products as the adult advisor. So if you're a young person listening to this, you can ask your adult advisor to go to a local store and purchase some tobacco products so that when you bring them to the visit, your legislator will be able to see which types of products are available and how much they cost. This is often a really good way to make your legislator know about the issues that are in your community and gives them something to touch and something to smell. So it's really tactile. And so if you want to educate your legislators, they often need visuals too. So that's a great visual to be able to bring to them. Next. After you have a visit with your legislator, and like Janice said, you might have several visits with them, we come back to the Great Hall and we have the chapter award ceremony. So the chapter awards are really all about celebrating the great work of the 84 chapters. Each chapter has a different level of engagement with us and different projects that they're working on. So this is really a way for us to recognize a lot of that great work that's happening. We have an award that goes to an adult advisor, one that is given to the most outstanding new chapter. Next slide. One that's also given for people who are making great local community change. And finally, a peer outreach award to a chapter that's really promoting the 84's messaging among peers in their community. So these awards are just a small token of our appreciation for everything that goes on throughout the state, and they're selected by our staff in addition to the community partnerships, boards of health, and other people who work with your chapter that recommend you to us. And so we ultimately make that decision here at our office. I will kick it over to Janice.
The messaging that we use is very important. The biggest thing is telling your stories from your hometown. Write them down before the event and prepare to tell your legislators all about your personal experiences with tobacco in your life and your community. Some other questions to address are, why are you part of the 84 movement? What concerns you about tobacco? And what are you seeing in your community? Lastly, we want to avoid placing the blame on youth. Phrases like, youth get their hands on these tobacco products, or we need to make it harder for the youth to buy, places the blame on the youth when really it's the tobacco industry's fault for using their tactics in the first place. Instead, try using, we need to stop Big Tobacco from placing products in every corner store. Or Big Tobacco's tactics is making their products so cheap is what ends up attracting lifelong smokers. Next slide, please. If you're still nervous about speaking face-to-face to a legislator, here's some advice about how you can talk to them during the legislative visits. You can talk about the products you brought to show and tell. Legislators often don't know which products are available and how much they cost, many flavors they come in, or how easy they are to get. You can also bring pictures of tobacco advertising, especially near schools, to show your legislators. Adults can be oblivious to advertising and often have no idea what a tobacco display in a store looks like. You shouldn't call out specific stores if you know someone who has purchased underage. We aren't out to get the store owners. Our target is Big Tobacco. Finally, when in doubt, sweet, cheap, and easy to get. If you're having trouble thinking of a personal story, you can always relate back to the 84's main messages. Next slide, please. Since Kick Butt Day is such a busy day, you might be wondering what you might have to bring. The answer is nothing. We provide chapters with t-shirts, breakfast, and lunch, signs for the march, materials for legislative visits, and transportation. All you need to bring is your stories about your community and why this issue matters to you. And be prepared to talk about it. Now I'll pass it over to Millane.
Here. If you're looking for other ways to prepare for Kick Butt Day, here are some suggestions. You can post on social media about the fight against big tobacco using our hashtag, the84KBD. You can also think of those who aren't coming and how to engage them. You don't need to come all the way to Boston to be involved in Kick Butt Day. Can there still be something to do at school or in your organization to celebrate Kick Butt Day? You can also reach out to your legislator's office to give them a heads up that you're coming and are excited to meet with them. Most legislators have a Twitter page, so don't be afraid to engage with them on social media. You can also ask them to attend the legislative speaking program at 10:30 a.m. in the Great Hall the day of the event. To prepare for the big day, you can practice a mock legislative visit with your chapter beforehand. We'll send you materials to use via email after February 15th, including a worksheet. Remember, any story about tobacco is important. Finally, you can engage with the Aide on social media. Let us know how your chapter is preparing for the big day and what you're doing to fight big tobacco. Next slide, please. After the event, you will get your picture taken. This photo will be used in your local media to pitch the story of Kick Butt Day. Sometimes it will be published, other times it won't. If you have a relationship with a reporter or news station, let us know. We have draft press releases for after the event that our staff will send out. Also, it's always nice to send a thank you note to any legislators who spoke during the event, because who doesn't like receiving a thank you? And now I'll pass it on to Carly.
So really, this is the end of our presentation, and we are so grateful again that you took the time to watch this. Just a couple of quick announcements and reminders based on what was said here. First of all, as Millane mentioned, we are accepting applications for the Statewide Youth Leadership Award. This award has $500 attached to it and is going to be given to a young person to congratulate them for all of their tobacco prevention efforts. So if you know any young person who wants to apply for it, the application can be found on the 84.org. Also, as you know, the registration deadline for Kick Butt Day is February 15th, so please register by that time, especially if you want transportation. And like Millane said, even though only 8 young people can come to Kick Butt Day, there are other ways to get them involved back at the school or community-based organization. And also, if you have a couple extra young people, please let me know, because we can always add them to the wait list. And if there's a possibility to have a couple more young people, then we're happy to do that. Also, in addition, Janice and Millane actually spent a really long time and a hard amount of work to edit a video that the statewide leadership team created to give more specifics for your chapter on Kick Butt Day and what to do and what not to do and kind of what to expect. So that video is going to be released very soon, and we would love if you could please promote that to your chapters and make sure that everybody is on the same page when you walk in the door for Kick Butt Day. I think that's it. Are there any other comments, Janice and Millane, you would want to add? Okay, so it seems like that is the conclusion of our webinar. Again, thank you so much for your time, and we will see you at Kick Butt Day. Bye.